Welcome to Prime Debate. Calcutta High Court Judge Justice Sumitra Sen's impeachment proceedings in the Rajya Sabha last week again brought to the fore the issue of corruption in the judiciary. After the debate on the motion on Justice Sen's impeachment, leader of the opposition Arun Jaitley observed that there was a need to change the system of judges themselves appointing judges. Jaitley demanded a national judicial commission for the appointment of judges, which according to him in matters of judicial discipline should be the judicial Lokpal. In Prime Debate, we discuss whether a National Judicial Commission will ensure accountability of judges. It is a well-known fact that the best of lawyers have often opted out of becoming judges. Does that in a way reflect the state of affairs when it comes to judicial appointments?
In recent times, the appointment of judges has drawn flack from various quarters. The issue was highlighted again when the nation for the first time witnessed the impeachment proceedings of the Calcutta High Court Judge Justice Sumitra Sen in the Rajya Sabha. Led by the leader of the opposition Arun Jaitley, members of the House cutting across party lines expressed concern over the present system for appointing judges.
At times the selection process, when only judges appoint judges, and the process is a non-transparent process, will always create situations where rumors in the corridors of the court and those who are close observers of the judicial process will be far too many.
Prior to 1993, appointments of the Supreme Court and High Court judges were made after the consultation process in which both the judiciary and the executive had a say. Subsequent to the 1993 judgment in the Supreme Court Advocates on Record case, the judiciary, however, has been enjoying absolute power in the appointment of judges through the collegium system headed by the Chief Justice of India. Earlier, the government had advocated the change in the system of appointment of judges. The Supreme Court, as of now, is examining the constitutional validity of the collegium system. But now a demand has been raised for a National Judicial Commission for the appointment of judges.
We should seriously consider a system which is being debated about setting up a National Judicial Commission. The National Judicial Commission must have judges. It must have the participation of the executive. It can also have participation selected by a collegium of some eminent citizens. It can't only remain the domain of the judges.
Jaitley also stressed on regulating the post-retirement activities of judges. Referring to accountability of judges, Jaitley said at present there was an in-house mechanism. However, he said the process of impeachment was a near impossibility. Accordingly, in matters of judicial discipline, Jaitley said the National Judicial Commission should be the judicial Lokpal.
To discuss this issue, we have in our studios Manjeet Singh Khera, Senior Advocate, Punjab and Haryana High Court, Anupam Gupta, Advocate and former Senior Standing Counsel for Chandigarh Administration, Justice R.S. Mongia, former Chief Justice of a High Court, and Sudarshan Goyal, Advocate, Punjab and Haryana High Court. Welcome to the studio. Justice Mongia, I'll start with you. Since independence, 3 systems of appointment of judges have been tried. Under the first system, the government appoints judges in consultation with the Chief Justice of India. Under the second system, which was operational from 1993 onwards, the advice of the Chief Justice became binding on the government. Kind of power, balance of power shifted from the government to the Chief Justice. And from 98 onwards, the greater power was vested in the collegium. Of the 3 systems, which one do you favor?
I will say that number 1 and 2, mixture of both. Why? Now, under the Constitution, it is the President of India who appoints a judge in consultation with the Chief Justice. That is the wording in the Constitution. Now, to say that there is a supremacy or binding effect under under the second option, well, I may say there that so far as the binding effect of the recommendation or the consultation is concerned, if the executive finds there is a material, it may send back the material to the Chief Justice. We have this material, it might have escaped your notice. Please consider this. And the Chief Justice can reconsider that, and if after reconsideration it says no, my initial recommendation is good, then it becomes binding. Not that since he says it is my recommendation, it is binding, he must consider the material which may be placed by the executive. After reconsideration, if he reiterates, then it should
So you're not in agreement with the present system where the collegium has the greater say?
No, I don't say that, because the Constitution never provided that. Initially, it was said by the Supreme Court that there should be 1+2, that is Chief Justice and 2 judges. President of India made some reference, certain questions were asked to the Supreme Court to clarify certain doubts in his mind. And while clarifying that, the Supreme Court said, in the Supreme Court the collegium shall be 1+4. The only reason given is, instead of Chief Justice deciding as one person, Chief Justice will include 4 more judges, which will be a collective decision, which will be a better decision. And according to me, the first system,
That is interesting. Now, you've been a part of the collegium and yet you don't favor the collegium system.
Because that was the Supreme Court, I don't favor it. I don't favor it, yes. The first, I said, the first system had stood the test of time. That was good.
I wonder why it was changed. I'll just come back to you. Mr. Goyal, which of the 3, the government appointing judges, the CGI having a greater say, or the present system of the collegium calling the shots?
I'll say first there should be a separation, like this different system for High Court judges and different for Supreme Court judges. For High Court judges, the present collegium system to me seems to be working well.
Okay.
But for Supreme Court, the same system should not be followed. For Supreme Court, there should be a hearing by joint committee of the Parliament till we have National Judicial Commission in place.
Right. Mr. Khera, under which system did the quality of judicial appointments improve in your opinion?
It never improved. It has consistently gone down. Don't paint all of them with one brush,
view, I would say.
But there are judges whose professional integrity as well as competence is in doubt because of this inbreeding. Judges appointing judges, either their relatives or somebody working in their chamber or otherwise favorites. The merit has been a victim in this. I would prefer total scrutiny of a man who is appointed a judge.
So what you're saying is whichever system you introduce, it should be a transparent system.
Total transparency like in the American system. One must be totally scrutinized before being appointed a judge. You are handing over the fate of thousands of clients to an individual without
What exactly do you mean when you say the American system? What do they do there?
The name is suggested by the president.
Okay.
It's scrutinized by the Senate committee. The man is questioned, interviewed, questioned in public forum. It's televised.
Right. Mr. Gupta, which system has worked the best? Mr. Jaitley, you heard him say that the present system, he was very critical of the present system of judges appointing judges.
You see, the premises or the postulates underlying the shift in power in the 90s by virtue of a reinterpretation of the Constitution. The Supreme Court rewrote the Constitution to appropriate the power of appointment from the executive to itself. India thereby becoming the only country in the world where judges do select judges. To that extent, Mr. Jaitley is absolutely right. The dissatisfaction with the quality of appointments persists. It's a grown over recent times, in recent years. The reason why the judges reinterpreted the Constitution, that they would know lawyers better, they would know what makes a judge, a human being, a better judge or a poorer judge, has not been vindicated in practice.
Mr. Gupta, you are almost suggesting that the present system is unconstitutional.
If you were to ask me on first principles, I do not subscribe to any part of the judicial wisdom which fell in 1993 and 1999 in the 2 judges appointments and transfers case. It was an impermissible, indefensible rewriting of the Constitution. But for moral reasons, for practical reasons, I would not advocate a shift back to the days when the primacy was with the executive. Both the executive and the judiciary have failed the nation. The men at the top do tend to take the matter of appointments as a matter of spoils, earlier executive spoils, now judicial spoils.
Perhaps that's why the people have taken to the streets and you have a protest going on in Delhi at the moment. Justice Mongia, speaking on the motion for removal of Justice Sen, Mr. Jaitley also stressed the need for the National Judicial Commission for appointment of judges. Do you favor that?
There is no harm in doing that because...
No harm, but it's a complete shift in the present system.
That's right. That's why, I mean, the system must change if it has not given us good results, because impeachment is a very long drawn and very difficult process. I mean, if I remember correctly, it has been, there was once impeachment motion against Justice Swami Ramaswamy of Supreme Court, which failed. Again, I would say the impeachment or the removal of the judge of a Supreme Court, High Court was in the hands of politicians. They may vote, they may not vote. That means the removal, though everything is proved, yet they may not vote in favor of removal, and the man whose integrity or misconduct is proved will still remain there. Therefore, I am saying this, apart from the fact that impeachment is a very long drawn process, it should be some other process which Justice Jaitley is suggesting, so that the removal is not in the hands of the politicians who vote for one side or the other.
So you are in favor of a National Judicial
That's
Commission?
Right. That's right.
Mr. Goyal, are you in favor of National
I am
Judicial
in favor of National Judicial Commission, but there should be different procedure for High Court judges and different for Supreme Court judges. I say for Supreme Court judges, the National Judicial Commission should not be the final authority. There should be some, if not the full Parliament, at least some committee of the Parliament.
But for High Court judges, would you subscribe to certain basic qualifications being laid down for those being appointed?
Well, the qualifications laid down in the Constitution are fine,
Which are good enough?
which are good enough.
So may I add one word here?
Yes.
That for appointment of judges, we must distinguish between appointment of a High Court judge and a Supreme Court judge. Why? Because the Supreme Court judge is appointed normally from the High Court judges, and again normally it is the senior most, that is Chief Justice, whose work and worth has already been seen by the Supreme Court by going through their judgments, otherwise hearing about their integrity, etc., etc. Therefore, if the Supreme Court itself takes to themselves to appoint Supreme Court judges from amongst the High Court judges, it will be all right, because the work and worth and integrity, etc., is known. There are cases, I am saying, where advocate is appointed straight to the Supreme Court. For that, the procedure may be the same as for a High Court judge.
Point well taken. Mr. Gupta, do you favor the National Judicial Commission?
I am frankly speaking not much enamored of that idea. I would strongly advocate yet another expansion of the judicial collegium. At least 1/3 of the institution, the Supreme Court and the High Court concerned, must participate in that process, not the top 2 or top 4. There is also an imperative need for very comprehensive written reporting by each and every member of the collegium on the antecedents, the integrity, the competence, the qualifications, the larger sense of the word of the prospective candidate. There is absolutely no discussion on the record. I was shocked to see once, I speak from personal knowledge, when a very distinguished collegium, a member of whom now occupies the bench of the Supreme Court, sits on the bench of the Supreme Court, the quality of recommendations made is so formal, so banal, so stereotyped, that he practices in the following fields. It's like you take someone's biodata. I practice in field 1, field 2, field 3, field 4, which we send to all kinds of institutions to become empaneled. This is not the kind of process.
But Mr. Gupta, the quality of work will always be very subjective, no?
So that it will be, but enlightened subjectivity at its highest. And it must be reflected in the record that you applied your mind. That written record must be maintained. That written record must be maintained.
But it should be maintained, but Mr. Gupta, should it be made public also?
It need not always be made public, but in case there is a serious dispute, in case Parliament calls for it, in case some other body calls for it, well, it should be available. Judges simply cannot get away, well, he practiced before me for 10 years and therefore I recommend him, recommendation 1, recommendation 2, recommendation 3. The proceedings of the collegium as they go to the executive for formal notification by the President do not contain any reasons. I repeat, I am not speaking of stereotype reasons. I am speaking of comprehensive, eloquent, self-commendatory or self-condemnatory reasons.
Of the kind of work, kind of judgments they have given.
A holistic appraisal of the judge concerned.
Holistic appraisal of the
prospective candidate concerned.